All right, everybody. In this video, we're going to continue with this series by going with the box Preignition, and this is going to be really our first dive into web application testing. We're going to be testing web apps, which I will explain as we get into this, but as soon as you can, please start up your Pwnbox, whether you've got it in a VM or you've got it on Hack the Box's website. You all know me at this point. I like to use Pwnbox. I'm going to move our questions to another screen, and I will start the target. So what we're going to see here is full screen. Should be able to see me full screen now. And we're going to dive into this. So don't forget to start your target. I know I keep saying that, but when you spawn the machine, you want to make sure we have a target to connect to, right? Like that's, the first step. Otherwise, you're going to be pen testing nothing really. So right now, mine's just creating an instance. We're waiting, and while we're waiting, we can read that first task, which the first task in this is directory brute forcing is a technique used to check a lot of paths on a web server to find hidden pages, which is another name for this. Or it says, which is another name for this. Local file inclusion, Dirbusting, or hash cracking. So we've got a little multiple choice there, question there. And I think the straightforward answer there is Dirbusting, which is short for directory busting. It's good to know what they call these things. So I do have an IP now to target. So I don't have to keep jumping back and forth, I'm opening up Pluma, which is a text editor in Pwnbox, and just going to drop some of my notes in there. So I could say like target IP. And you definitely want to get in the habit of taking good notes. Target IP, and then I'll like bullet point out things as I find them. So we know the answer to the first question is Dirbusting, because that's another name for directory brute forcing. Task 2 is what switch do we use for Nmap scan to specify that we want to perform version detection? What is the answer to that? So I happen to know that off the top of my head already. So that is Nmap-S or Nmap-SV. And then, of course, the IP, which I think I still have in RAM, and I do. Hit enter there. It's going to look for versions. And so we know task 1 and 2, easy. What about task 3? What does Nmap report is the service identified as running on port 80? What's the service? The service is HTTP, right? Because we see this right here in the output. We're seeing Nginx. So we're going to learn a little bit about Nginx here. So make sure in your task you put the answer. What server name and version of service is running on port 80 TCP? We just saw that. So Nginx 142. Why would you want to know this stuff? And for example, we would want to do this on a real engagement. We would want to have our notes on this. If it would let me copy here. So copy. There we go. So you could, initial enumeration. In my experience, it's good to take notes as you go. That way you're not, you're not backtracking, because you could get far just being locked in and pivoting around a network, and you get so far and then you get your access cut because you got caught, or EDR got you and kicked you out, and now you don't know where you're at, or you forgot where you set up persistence, or some small detail left you. I recommend, it can be tedious at first, but if you get in the habit of taking notes as you go, the report is so much easier. And your notes don't have to be the report. The notes can be bullet points, because writing the report after will be easy if you at least know the flow, or have documented the flow of your attack, your attack story. And I know this is easier stuff, but these are good habits to form earlier than waiting for later, and you've already developed bad habits of not taking notes. So what switch do we use to specify? This is the next task. What switch do we use to specify to Gobuster we want to perform Dirbusting specifically? So remember, you can use Grok, you can use ChatGPT on these things and still learn. Just remember, it's not just about getting answers. So I'm going to deviate from that task for a little bit, and I do want to talk slightly about web apps and what in the world they are from a basics level. So I'm going to take the IP here that we've written out, and I'm going to paste it, and we're going to go here, and we see a site pull up, right? It's not much, right? It's Nginx. It's not like a full-blown video game in the browser, or it's not like Hack the Box is, which Hack the Box is technically a web application. And you might be wondering, well, what is a web application? It is what it sounds like. It is an application that you can use all within the web. The beauty of web applications is that you don't necessarily need to install anything locally on your machine. You should have a browser, of course, but that's really the bare minimum required to be able to interact with a web application. So put in the comments below examples of web applications that you use every day, whether you're at work or school. What are some examples? I can give you some. Hack the Box is technically a web application because everything that you can do on Hack the Box is accessible within the web browser over the HTTP protocol. So one of those questions we just answered was, what service did we discover, essentially? We discovered HTTP, which is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or Hypertext Transport Protocol, which is allowing HTML, and just bare minimum, hypertext markup language, to be delivered over the web to a web client from a web server. Remember, we've had conversations about the client-server relationship where a client requests a service, a server serves a request to a client. In the HTTP process relationship, if you will, the web client is your browser, and then the web server is whatever device on the web or on your local network even is hosting that service. So in this case, we're seeing a Nginx service when we go to the IP. There could be a web app hosted, and some other examples of web apps are like Google Docs or even Microsoft Word in the browser. YouTube is a web app, because most of the heavy lifting with a web app is on the host, which is the server side. So with YouTube, Google and YouTube, the YouTube team at Google are doing all the heavy lifting of hosting the actual infrastructure that powers YouTube. The servers that allow videos to be streamed, the servers that allow for authentication to happen with the website, the servers that are responsible for the recommendation engine, right? Grok, I talk about Grok all the time, is a web app. So I say all that, but why is that important? Why is web application security important? Well, because really the future and the current status of information technology and how it's being used in society is really through the browser now. I mean, everything we do, for the most part, you're doing in a browser. If you're doing it on premises, it's generally considered legacy infrastructure, which exists out there. I'm not saying it's not a thing, and you will come across it. But like the modern way of doing things is web apps. And a lot of people give credit to Google for ushering in the age of the web app. Just Google Google Progressive Web Apps, or PWA. That's kind of like where we've gone to this browser-based world, internet-dependent, with most of it. So, yeah, that's my spiel on web apps, and we'll we'll go a little bit deeper because that's like a really basic explanation. And some people out there might be like, dude, you didn't cover even half of it. And they're correct. I did not, but there's a reason for that. I don't want to overwhelm you with information all in one go. So what switch do we use to specify Gobuster when we want to perform Dirbusting specifically? So how do we do that? We can actually try a couple things that we normally do. Let me zoom in here. Control ++. Like I normally here we go. I'm not sure what I did, but let's just close and open. There we go. So that's going to be better. Next time, tell me that I made your screen really small. Okay, cool. So what we're going to look at here is Gobuster. So let's do Gobuster --help, and let's see what flag allows us to perform Dirbusting specifically. So we're looking, this is a command, but what flag or switch? This question could be worded slightly better because this is not technically a switch or a flag. A switch or a flag is usually preceded by a dash or two dashes. So technically this is a command, right? I'm not going to be too picky, but I would change the wording there to which command in Gobuster allows us to do Dirbusting specifically. So in this, we're saying dir right here. So that's your answer. So we're going clear. So Gobuster dir, and we're gonna see what this is. And I've taught when we're doing web apps, I've had students have like an epiphany during this, and realize like, oh wait, hold on a second. So a website is just, and I know this is oversimplification, but it's a way to think about it. A website is just a server with files in different directories. Yes, technically when you're doing the / on a website and the URL and you're going to different parts, different web pages, those are different files or sets of files and applications within a different directory on a server. So those exist on the file system of a server somewhere. You're just accessing it through HTTP. Right, so now what are we doing? We're on to task 6. When using Gobuster to Dirbust, what switch do we add to make sure it finds PHP pages? So Gobuster, remember it'd be Gobuster --help. So how do we find PHP pages? Is it going to help us in here? Probably not. So that might be a question for Grok. I'm literally going to copy and paste right into Grok, and we can watch Grok think about it in front of our eyes. So Gobuster, what switch do we add to make sure it finds PHP pages? And then it's showing us it's thinking. You know, maybe some people call me lazy. I could Google that as well. You know, we could go around the web and check and see. Or you could wait for Grok. You could go to ChatGPT. So it says -x followed by PHP. So, and it gave us an example here. So the answer is probably -x space PHP. So that's our answer. All right. What page is found during our Dirbusting activities? So now we're going to actually do some directory busting. For the record, do not point at any website and start doing this. The reason I'm showing you Hack-the-Box is so that you can do and practice these skills on Hack-the-Box in a safe, controlled environment, in your home lab if you've got one. And the reason that is the case is because you don't want to get in trouble. It's most likely the case that in your country, without permission, gaining unauthorized access to a system that is not yours is technically illegal. Like you can be tried in a court of law in the United States for that. So do not do this on public facing websites that you haven't been given written permission for. Right? So we're going to do that. XPHP. What am I doing wrong? Oh, we got to target HTTP : then the IP, right? We got to specify the protocol and then hit enter. Look, so now we actually have to specify a word list, which I will have to find where the word lists are in so I used a tool called locate to find word lists in Pwnbox here. A word list is what it sounds like. It's like a large text file of commonly named, and when we get into password cracking, you'll use word lists. But a word list is basically a list of common names for directories. Admin, I don't know, WordPress, WP content, just common names for directories that are seen in on web servers around the world. And that way, when we're directory busting, Gobuster is going to rapidly guess using this word list. It's going to try to go rapidly browse to that word, that name, that folder. So it's going to go to the web server, and then it's going to do the / and it's going to try to go to each word in that list quickly, right? One of the reasons this one's written in Go, or Gobuster is written in Go, is because Go is a pretty fast language. And you can look into the specifics of Go and concurrency and why Go was invented if you want to really understand in depth how Go works. But for now, just know that's what a word list is. And a word list within the passwords realm is scary, because usually a password list, something like rockyou.txt, which is famous, is got so many different common passwords informed by password leaks and breaches that have happened, where malicious hackers have gotten into a website on the web, broke into the database, essentially got a bunch of hashes, were able to crack the hashes, and we'll talk about hashes, and leak those passwords in clear text, which means the exact password that's yours, or if you had it on that website, and leaked it to the dark web, or leaked it to somewhere public, and those were added to the word list. So pen testers will also add to word lists just because they've cracked passwords on engagements and are sharing passwords with the community. And the idea behind this, some people may say this is not ethical, right? It's not ethical to share a word list. But I don't know. This is up for debate, and this is probably more of an ethics conversation, but I think it is important. Do you think that word lists and the maintenance of them and the updating of word lists is ethical? Is it the right thing to do? Some might say no, absolutely not. Why would you do that? Why would you equip malicious hackers with these tools? Another people will tell you, yes, we want to equip the right hackers, like the ethical hackers, or the security assessors, the penetration testers, the people that really care and want to secure a network. We want them to have the same tools that the bad people do, the malicious folks do, so that we can beat them at their game, so we can get to the vulnerabilities faster, so that we can patch them. Remember, the whole benefit of thinking like a hacker is you can find vulnerabilities on networks before the bad people do, before the malicious people do, because really the only difference between a malicious hacker and ethical hacker or a good some I think there's one bug bounty company, they use the term, I think it's Bug Crowd, good faith security researcher, which I like because that means you're doing things in good faith. So you're not trying to be malicious. You're not trying to steal intellectual property. You're not trying to leak things and break the law. You're trying to help them test their security. You know, it's like checking the door. You're locking the door. Are you sure you locked the door when you left the house? How would you know if you didn't try to unlock it? We're going an extra step and we're like trying to break in a sense to see if a malicious hacker would. Because to us, here's the way I look at it. I think this is the way to do security, hacker-informed security, because otherwise you're just trusting the marketing of companies that are making security products. And I'm not saying marketing's bad. I'm just saying for you as someone who should be thinking more engineering driven, you want to test these controls. Is that firewall really giving me the protection that I think it is? Did those permission settings I put on that system actually lock it down? How would you know if you didn't put that hacker hat on and try to attack that system the way that a hacker would? You know, and then once you get in, you're like, okay, how do we patch this? And then you patch it. And so this is the constant ongoing cycle of security, I think. It has to be hacker informed, because if you're just doing defense, and this is my opinion, of course, and some people agree, some people don't. But if you're just doing defense and that's all you try to do, you only just set up firewall rules, you only set up permissions, you only set up systems in what you think is the ideal best business practice way, and never try to test your security controls, get around them, you never try to break what you set up, you're kind of living a lie in a way, right? Like, you're just like, oh yeah, it's secure, it's locked down. But regardless of if we think wordless are ethical or not, they're gonna exist out there. These tools are gonna continue to be in development by the malicious side. So it's like we gotta combat it, I believe, with the same mindset, but with a different intention. So ultimately, the only difference between a malicious hacker and a good faith security researcher, an engineer, is intentions. So disagree with me in the comments, fight me, whatever. But we'll get into it. So these word lists are going to have passwords. They're going to have some of them. The word lists are specifically for the names of directories, common directory names. Which with Dirbuster, which is I guess the predecessor to Gobuster, these word lists are specifically for web directories names, where like other lists will be for passwords. So I know this is going to be for names of web directories because it's under the Dirbuster. And so Dirbuster directory. So I'm going to go copy this. We're going to clear. And we're going to do this command again, -W, but this time we're going to point to where the word list is on our machine. And then we're going to run that. So I'm going to hit enter. What did I miss here? Oh, did we miss -X? Oh no, we got PHP. What did we miss? Target, HTTP. I think I forgot the dir command. See, look at me here. I was yapping too much. You got to tell me to stop yapping. dir-u, which is URL, and we could, I think maybe we could add -xphp at the end. So -xphp. No such file. Okay. Word list. I think I might have missed .text. So .txt -x php. What are we doing wrong here? Look at me. Not floundering. User share Dirbuster wordlist.text xphp. What if I just went like this? Why didn't it find locate word list? I wonder if that exists on here anymore. So, of course, I'm going to leave my mistakes in here. I might have missed a slash. Let me check again. No, I didn't. User share. User share. Let's see here. I'm curious why the Dirbusting one is not there. I might have just went right. Yeah, I went right to a directory. Sorry. So I went right to a directory instead of to the text file, right? So we'll do common.txt. I bet you that's what I did. Sorry, I'm okay with being embarrassed. You're like, dude, sucks. I'm off this video, man. I hate this man. He's poop. Word list. So common.txt. No? That has to exist. What's going on here? What's wrong with him? What's wrong with me? Oh, there we go. Whatever. I missed something. I had a typo. Okay, cool. So you see, I'll probably edit some of that out. So you see how it's currently, it found everything that it needed to find, but you can see that it used this word list as a reference. And I'm always hesitant to show the contents of these text files on stream or on screen, because sometimes text files have suggestive words in there, sometimes even racist words that, I wouldn't want to show on screen. So I'll let you view text files and what's inside of them, but just know it's a bunch of words, in a list, literally, one per line, that these tools can use as a reference to rapidly guess. So now what we found is admin.php is one of the web pages hosted on this web server. So what are we going to do with that? We're going to use that as an answer in task 7, but we can also actually navigate to that on the website by going admin.php. And that looks like a login page. So, and we also had another task question that's supposed to guide our learning that says on task 8, what is the HTTP status code reported by Gobuster for the discovered page? And it gave us, for the discovered page, 200. So we can ask, Grok, what's an HTTP 200 code? That usually means success, right? That means that there is something there, the page loaded. There's other codes, and you can look up like HTTP status code lists, and you can see some codes mean permission denied, which could mean that there's something of interest there. There's other errors. 404, as you've heard, is like an ongoing joke, is not there, but that's what that means. I think a 404 error means that there's nothing there. If we navigated to /Bob on this website, it's not going to be there, and we're going to get a 404 error. So cool. So now what they're asking us to do next, as the last flag here, or the last step, is the flag. So how do we get the flag? We're on the web page here. Can we try like default passwords, like admin? Boom. We found it. The flag's right here, and you put it in there. So it's essentially teaching a very essential skill, which is directory busting, quickly trying to discover available and reachable directories on a web server. This is a web app in the sense that we logged into it, but it's not doing much other than being an admin console that allows us to grab the flag. But this all the knowledge and skills to like understand directory busting is here, and even some basics of how HTTP works. So let me know if you have any comments or questions about this. Put them in the comments below. Put them in the chat, and I'll see you in the